we're seeing who the best fighter in the world is, and we're getting people to watch so that the fans can appreciate something that I find to be the most loved thing in my life, next to my wife, you know? So, I don't know. I think it's a shame when that shit happens, especially when it's like an ego thing. But also at the same time, I don't really think that that's too much of what Jon Jones is doing. I'm more speaking in terms of what I kind of see in other people. I think...
Why is that fight not happening? Well, it could be for two reasons. It's either that Jon Jones is using a strategy to have more money. You could say it, GSP. Go for it. Come on, say what you want to say. But I think that's why he's doing it. You know, if he's doing it just to hold the title, to serve the wave, this is not.
Joe Rogan said that Jon Jones wants $110 million to fight Tom Aspinall in the White House next year. The UFC world is used to chaos, but this one was a surprise. When the idea of a UFC fight on the grounds of the White House first came up, it seemed like a crazy idea, but now it's becoming more popular, which makes people very angry. It looks like Jones is getting ready for a big comeback. He officially quit not long after UFC 303.
Looks like Jon Jones finally wants to fight Tom Aspinall, but this time at the White House. I told you guys that Jon Jones was playing chess, not checkers, this entire time. Someone just tweeted this at Jon Jones saying, "Ducking Tom Aspinall, ? Best decision you ever made, ? Jon responded, "Choosing when to attack and where you want the battlefield to be is not ducking, my friend." Try telling every single one of you that Jon Jones was never ducking Tom Aspinall. It's very clear here that Jon Jones is playing chess.
The claim for $110 million has quickly become the most controversial topic in MMA this year. Some fans and critics think it's a brave move that fits Jones's fame, but others, like his old rival Daniel Cormier, say he's holding the sport hostage. This week on his podcast 3 Rounds, Cormier, "I thought he was joking." Cormier said, "I thought he was pulling a fast one on the fans because he knew how badly they wanted him to fight Tom Aspinall." Cormier was clearly fed up with the lack of clarity. "That's why you're upsetting people?" he asked. It appears that he has been doing this a lot lately. For Cormier, Rogan, and many others, it's not just about the money. It is about respect for the sport, its fans, and the competitors who are looking for answers in the heavyweight class.
Star Aspinall would have been if we just would have got that fight over with right away. Think of the star Ngannou still would have been for this company if you just would have had that fight and moved it on. And then you have an epic rivalry between those two, Aspinall and Ngannou. Like the years and years of amazing heavyweight fights could have been happening if Jon Jones just wasn't a petulant child, and if the UFC wasn't just the, "Oh no, it's fine, he's just finding himself," like just so annoying. And
Jones' surprise exit in June 2025 plunged the division into chaos. After months of avoiding a title defense against Aspinall, who had gained support by defending his temporary title against Curtis Blades in 2024, Jones gave over the belt and walked away. Dana White, who had long promised a unification fight, had to change gears, and Aspinall was raised to indisputable title status. Only 2 weeks later, Jones filed application to re-enter the UFC's anti-doping testing pool, fueling rumors that he was never truly retired.
But what did you make of it when you heard Jon calling out Alex of all people?
You know, I think he does do this because, you know, Alex Perez now he's like big star in the UFC, you know, everybody loves him, so he know what he's doing, you know, but I believe he should to fight against Aspinall, but I think he a little bit afraid of him, you know, because Aspinall is someone who can really stop him and beat him.
Yeah,
I mean, but that's what I think that he believes if he...
Following Rogan's comments, these rumors spread like wildfire. Everyone is already talking about a UFC 300 style event in the White House in 2026, with Jon Jones as the opener against Aspinall. The show is unprecedented, a historic sight, a generational ability, and a whopping $110 million desire. However, as excitement grows in some parts, condemnation comes in from others.
And say, no, you're not going to take this. And do you know what Jon Jones did? You have it. I don't want to fight. You can have it. This is unbelievable. The greatest of all time. What a load of shit. I'm sorry. Never going to call that him the GOAT. Ever again. Because being the greatest of all time is not just about winning. And that's what Jon Jones doesn't understand. It's about how you conduct yourself throughout the whole of your career. Are you willing to fight the biggest challenges?
The Jones is accused of exaggerating his wealth beyond reason. He has not played since 2023. His passivity, along with his refusal to commit to challenging Aspinall when the division was set up for it, has soured those who previously admired him. "You either fight or hit the door," Cormier stated frankly. From Cormier's viewpoint, the entire affair fits within a long-standing pattern. Jones backs out, plays coy, writes mysterious messages, and then tosses forth outrageous phrases as, "Attention fades. This time it feels like a message. It's about power, not just money." Jones is saying that the ball is in his court, but the MMA community is not having it.
I was absolutely confident that Jones versus Aspinall was done and we were going to do it. And here we are today, so you never know. I don't get into it until it actually happens.
Is there a fight that you almost made that didn't happen?
Aspinall Jones.
The
fight was done. Everybody had agreed to it. Everybody agreed to the whatever, and then Jones came back and said, "I'm going to retire."
Aspinall has stayed relatively quiet about the situation, continuing to train and making media appearances that portray him as the de facto heavyweight champion. With a record of time, fans are curious to watch how his athleticism, speed, and composure under stress compare to Jones' battle IQ and unconventional style. However, the more Jones stalls, the more public opinion favors Aspinall. Social media has some supporters believe Jones is delusional and is pricing himself out of the race. Others see it as a brilliant maneuver, putting UFC executives, especially Dana White, into a corner where they must either reject the notion outright or start pulling strings to make it work. Jones, after all, has always been a master at pressure.
I'm as big a John Jones fan as anybody, and I've always defended he's not afraid of Tom. He's willing to fight anybody. It's hard to not fall into that narrative here, though. To me, fighting in the White House, that doesn't do it. But maybe I'm a different person. Maybe everybody looks at it different. For me, if you tell me they're going to have a fight at the White House, cool. All right. It'd be cool to do it. If not, whatever. A fight's a fight. Maybe John looks at it different.
Critics, however, have compared this to the Conor McGregor effect. They claim Jones has adopted McGregor's strategy of demanding exorbitant compensation and turning fights into media circuses. Consistent shows over the years, the reaction is fierce. Jones' Instagram is full with followers imploring him to accept the fight or accusing him of avoiding Aspinall entirely. Joe Rogan, who has closely watched Jones' whole career and has even referred to him as the best fighter of all time, looked astonished when he revealed the $110 million amount during his show. "That's what I am hearing. He's asking about $110 million to finish it," according to Rogan. But I'm not sure if that's true or if Jones is just tossing numbers around.
Star Aspinall would have been if we just would have got that fight over with right away. Think of the star Ngannou still would have been for this company if you just would have had that fight and moved it on. And then you have an epic rivalry between those two, Aspinall and Ngannou. The years and years of amazing heavyweight fights could have been happening if John Jones just wasn't a petulant child, and if the UFC wasn't just "oh no, it's fine, he's just finding himself," just so annoying and so...
Whatever the motivation behind the demand, the outcome is clear. John Jones has once again become the center of attention, and not always in a good way. Former athletes are starting to weigh in. Chael Sonnen suggested that if Jones asks for $110 million, Aspinall should ask for Buckingham Palace. Brendan Schaub mentioned on the Schaub Show that the figure was unrealistic, pointing out that the UFC had never paid a fighter more than $10 million flat. "You are not Mayweather," Schaub responded. "You are not getting that type of bag." But others are fighting back against the hate. Jones' followers say that he is the only fighter capable of asking such a sum. One Reddit user stated, "He's the best to ever do it. You don't undercut Michael Jordan if he wants to return for one. More game."
If you're a sprinter and you take PEDs, you become faster than people who are not taking PEDs and you win a race. That's okay. You're a cheat, you've won, they'll take your title off you or whatever. That's fine. If your job is to hurt another person, physically hurt another person, which could potentially redirect the rest of their life post-fighting, you're an absolute piece of shit and you should never be able to fight again if you have any PED.
The White House aspect adds another layer of mystery. While no one knows how serious the conversations are, some insiders have stated that with the U.S. celebrating its semi-quincentennial in 2026, the chance of a huge UFC event taking place at a national landmark is not out of the question. President Trump's ties to the UFC and past with Dana White have only stoked speculation. that a once-in-a-lifetime event may take place, with Jones versus Aspinall as the headliner.
It's the legacy. To be able to go to the heavyweight division, take out everyone, and then take out the John Jones legend, you know, and then go back to even beating a few of these new school guys, will literally put Tom Aspinall as the GOAT of the heavyweight division.
However, like with anything in MMA, truth is slippery. Fans are currently stuck in limbo. Aspinall is ready, Cormier is seeking answers, Jones is playing chess, and Rogan has just lit the fuse. Currently, Jones is under increasing pressure to either confirm the fight or walk away forever. For the time being, his career legacy stands. But every tease, imprecise post, and exaggerated demand erodes the trust he has built with fans and other fighters.
He's like the longest running heavyweight champion in the history of the UFC, isn't he? But he's only like he hasn't fought anyone.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen, you know. I think John gets a lot of money for being champion. I think the sponsors and that are paying him a fortune, and I think he's just dragging along, keeping the belt as long as possible because it's worth that much money to him.
I mean, John's often struggled with tall people who are good boxers. I imagine he'd probably, if he did fight him, he would.
Top UFC coach Din Thomas has gone out swinging against Jon Jones, accusing the former champion of teasing yet another comeback. After having recently announced his retirement, his dissatisfaction is shared by a growing segment of the MMA community, fighters, trainers, and fans who are tired of Jones' unpredictable actions and lengthy teasers. After months of anticipation for a fight with Tom Aspinall, Jones announced his departure from professional boxing in June 2025, handing over the heavyweight title and leaving the sport. But just weeks later, he's back in the spotlight, suggesting that he'll return not to fight Aspinall, but to headline a historic UFC event at the White House. Din Thomas, a well-known MMA coach and analyst who frequently appears on UFC broadcasts and podcasts, stated his viewpoint during a conversation on Daniel Cormier's YouTube account. He did not sugarcoat it.
I'll just come out and ask you, do you think he's ducking Tom Aspinall?
No. Jon Jones, I said it a million times, I'll say it again, he's never ducked anybody other than that one goofy time with the Chael Sonnen thing. He's never ducked anybody, and you know, I think the reality is, whatever changed his mind with this fight, I don't know, you'd have to ask him that, but you know, he's 38 years old, and I don't know.
Do you think if it was someone like Alex Pereira, he would fight them? And it's maybe Tom that he specifically doesn't fancy the match?
My first thought when I heard that this guy likes attention. Thomas stated that he is only trying to keep his name out there. He is dangling his prestige over our heads, and I hate it. I'm going to tell you right now, I don't care if Jones ever fights again for Thomas. The Jones story has gone from captivating to tiring. He noticed Jones' greatness. Few would deny that he is one of the most technically brilliant fighters in the sport's history, but they think his greatness is being obscured by unnecessary drama. Thomas said that he is without a question the greatest to have ever done it. But I'm not worried if he ever fights again. Simply ride off into the sunset.
And say, no, you're not going to take this. And do you know what Jon Jones did? You have it. I don't want to fight. You can have it. This is unbelievable. The greatest of all time. What a load of shit. I'm sorry. Never going to call that him the GOAT. Ever again. Because being the greatest of all time is not just about winning. And that's what Jon Jones doesn't understand. It's about how you conduct yourself throughout the whole of your career. Are you willing to fight the biggest challenges, the biggest tests? Go in there and test yourself again.
Instead of watching Jones flip-flop on retirement and social media, Thomas said he is focused on the active fighters who are putting in the work and risking their health to keep the sport going. Do you know who I care about? I care about Ilia Topuria, Dustin Poirier, and the other guys who are risking their life for us. He stated, I care about those dudes. Fights again. Thomas' comments come at a time when Jones' professional narrative is once again altering. Jones stated that he has re-entered the UFC's anti-doping testing pool after formally quitting the sport in June, only weeks after UFC President Dana White promised a unification battle between Jones and Aspinall. That move alone drew eyebrows, but what happened next sent the MMA world into disarray.
How do you think that would have gone, Aspinall, Jon Jones? Prime versus Prime.
Prime, I'll go Jon Jones.
Really?
Sure. Yeah, 100%.
You wouldn't even give Tom a go at the Prime?
No. Like I said, I rate Jon Jones highly. I believe that he's the best to ever do it. And Tom is a, for now, he's the guy now, you know what I mean?
But if they would have fought, then you think that Tom had a strong chance because of the timing?
Yeah.
And fighting's always about timing.
Boxing.
100%.
As America celebrated Independence Day, President Donald Trump officially announced that the UFC would hold a fight event at the White House in 2026 to commemorate the country's 150th anniversary. Hours later, Jon Jones turned to Twitter to confirm what many people thought. He was interested in returning not for legacy or Aspinall, but for the chance to represent America on the most momentous stage in UFC history. Donald made his statement on the morning of July 4th. Jones wrote, "I called the UFC headquarters that same afternoon. I will leave it at that. America. That tickles my pickle." In answer to a fan speculation about an iconic showdown, Jones doubled down. "It would be," he answered, "for me. It's about the opportunity to represent America in the White House. I do not care who I fight that night. I found a reason why. That's all I needed. Something that was bigger than money."
UFC White House is crazy, dude. How's that even a thing? Is that allowed? Like, how is Donald even allowed to do that? It'd be kind of gangster, though. Chandler versus McGregor. It'd be kind of gangster. Aspinall, Jon Jones wants to fight him. Classic. Back in the testing pool after 2 weeks. Bro is a troll and a half. He's not having his title back. That just can't be happening. All the ground trip would be sick.
But for many, including Din Thomas, that answer is lacking. The uncertainties and contradictions are starting to weigh on the entire division. Jones announced his retirement only a few weeks ago. Now he's suddenly inspired by patriotism and looks willing to fight anyone, including Aspinall, though he hasn't identified him specifically. Tom Aspinall, who became the undisputed UFC heavyweight king after Jones retired, is caught in the center of this ambiguity. After defending his interim title against Curtis Blades in 2024 and establishing himself as a real star in the division, Aspinall looked to be setting up a definitive fight with Jones. That game, which had been touted for more than a year, never happened. Jones walked. Aspinall was crowned, and the fight seemed over.
I have move up for this triple champ thing. Jon Jones, who took a few years but made good on his promise that he was moving to heavyweight, went up and fought Cyril Gane. We're like, okay, we've got some guys, right? Like, we might have lost Cyril Gane as a legitimate contender, but we got Jon Jones. That's okay. And we've got Tom Aspinall, who is a prime, even a young for his division, monster, who's got in several fights like less than 10 minutes of cage time. So he's giving the fans the knockouts they want to see, the high energy,
the submissions.
The submission. He's great on the microphone. You know, Tom Aspinall.
Now that Jones is back in the testing pool and focused on the White House event, Aspinall may once again be on the map. Dana White, the UFC president, certainly thinks so. White stated on the Full Send podcast that his favorite main event for the White House show is Jones versus Aspinall. The ideal main event right now would be Aspinall versus Jones, White said the Nelk Boys. White sees the White House display as more than just an occasion. It's an important moment in UFC history. He has promised to make it the baddest card of all time, marketing it as a spectacular pay-per-view card that can compete with whatever the promotion has done before. But making that goal a reality requires managing the ambiguity that surrounds Jon Jones. Does he truly not care who he fights? Would he really accept a fight with Aspinall, the man he seemed to avoid for almost a year? Or is this another clever ruse to keep relevancy without risk?
Is there a fighter in MMA or the UFC that you just find absolutely insufferable? Because for me, it's Jon Jones, and there is no close second. Jon Jones defended his heavyweight title against a retired 42-year-old Stipe Miocic back in November. Ever since then, Jon has been saying, "What has Tom Aspinall done to deserve to fight me?" You know, besides Tom being the interim champ and having a defense with that belt, Jon has just found every possible way to not fight Tom, even...
Those questions are causing frustration. Many in the MMA industry now think Jones is not only delaying his career, but also freezing the whole heavyweight division. Aspinall, now 153, deserves a clear way forward. Whether it is against Jones, Cyril Gane, or someone else, the hesitation and Jones' ambiguous statements are hindering the UFC from proceeding with clarity. Jones' actions are already starting to shape how his legacy is perceived. Despite being a two-division winner with an unrivaled record, his numerous retirements, suspensions, and now questionable comebacks have created a sense of exhaustion.
The fight will never happen. Gun to my head, I would have said Jon Jones will beat him right now. Tom has never been pushed into those championship rounds. That first time you feel that, I gotta get up off that stool after the third round. You needed to fight Tom now when he doesn't have that experience, especially as Jon.
Fans who previously celebrated his dominance are now asking if he's worth the trouble. Despite the criticism, the potential of a Jon Jones return, especially on such a historic stage, remains viable. His name still makes news as the greatest to ever do it. If the UFC can get a White House event and persuade Jones to lead, even his sharpest critics will most certainly tune in.
Is there a fighter in MMA or the UFC that you just find absolutely insufferable? Because for me, it's Jon Jones, and there is no close second. Jon Jones defended his heavyweight title against a retired 42-year-old Stipe Miocic back in November. Ever since then, Jon has been saying, what has Tom Aspinall done to deserve to fight me? You know, besides Tom being the interim champ and having a defense with that belt, Jon has just found every possible way to not fight Tom,
But it is a big if. Jones has yet to commit to a name, a date, or a full training camp. His interest is more about symbolism than competition, and this is what irks Din Thomas the most. Not the idea of a comeback, it's the game playing, misdirection, and constant manipulation of listener expectations. The heat is now on Dana White to cut through the noise and determine the future of the heavyweight division. If Jones is actually back and ready to fight, he must sign a contract, probably with Aspinall on the other end. If not, the UFC must continue without him, allowing rivals like Tom Aspinall, Cyril Gane, and Jailton Almeida to grab the spotlight without waiting for a ghost. Jones' story has always been complex. His greatness is undeniable, but the way he achieved it has left many disappointed. Jones has made his own trip more difficult than it needed to be, with suspensions, legal problems, walkways, and false retirements. Now that the White House fight card has returned the attention to Jon Jones, he has one more chance to write a fitting last chapter or to prove his doubters right once. And for all, what are your thoughts? Please share your views below and subscribe for future updates.